expecting the President to actually be speaking this afternoon. I understand my team asking us to go across to there, where we're expecting the President to start addressing the Veterans League soon.
Amandla. Good afternoon, Comrade President and delegates who have been here for the last 2.5 days. This is a declaration which was read earlier and adopted by all the veterans who are here. In the declaration, we say, we the delegates to the National Conference of the ANC Veterans League, gathered at Bedford Hotel and Oliver Tambo Conference Center in Ekurhuleni in Gauteng on the 28th to the 30th of July 2023, under the theme, Renewal of the ANC to Advance the National Democratic Revolution. This third National Conference of the ANC Veterans League was convened by the National Task Team, which was appointed by the ANC NEC and given a tight time frame. We were appointed in November last year, and we're given a time frame that by end of July, we should have established PTTs, number one. Number two, we should have established, ensured that provinces, 8 provinces go to provincial conferences. And unfortunately, 6 provinces went to provincial conferences, branches elected their leadership. The outstanding province was Gauteng and KZN, and the PTT for KZN was established, and so it brought in delegates who were non-voting delegates. Gauteng, of course, the PTT still has been established about 2 weeks ago, and of course they managed to take branches to a meeting, to BBGM. Those branches elected delegates who are here. We are about 65 delegates from Gauteng. The issue of Gauteng, we believe that it will be resolved immediately after this conference. Comrade President, the conference received the following reports. It received the convener's political report, the coordinator's report on the work of the National Task Team, policy discussion document, renewal discussion document on organizing campaigns and membership. Comrade President, you must look at that document on organizing and campaigns membership. Members of the NEC in the morning, they were really impressed by that report, because it stated who attended meetings of organizing, who did not. It stated in black and white. And so it shames those who agreed to be members of NTT and to be members of the structure, that it's shown there in black and white how many meetings this individual attended. Some of them did not attend any meetings since we were appointed in November. The report states that. And so some of the comrades who are young, they were very impressed. Members of the NEC said, yo, these veterans. It means that when we say meeting, they were very impressed. They were highly impressed. And so we looked at the policy framework on coalitions. Comrade President, we took a resolution as veterans that we must relook at our coalition agreement, which is an unholy alliance, it's an ethical coalition with EFF. Must relook at it as soon as possible, because it does not benefit us as an organization. It neither benefits our communities. And so we are saying that coalition agreement must be relooked at as soon as possible. We had a discussion document on money and politics and revolutionary morality. That document was looking at how delegates are bought with money, and that how money influences election of some candidates. We discussed that document itself. We are not happy with the role that money plays in our organization. Comrade President, the discussion document formed a very strong basis for the conference to focus on how the ANC Veterans League can contribute to effective policies and concrete programs that will decisively push forward the fundamental renewal of the African National Congress in order to improve the quality of life and the well-being of all South Africans. As the ANC veterans of the ANC, the men and women who dedicated our lives to the struggle for a free, democratic, non-racial, non-sexist, united, prosperous South Africa, we spent this weekend at this conference focusing on the primary concerns and aspirations of the people occupied the center stage. All delegates broke into 3 conference commissions where they deliberated on the challenges facing the African National Congress and the critical tasks facing our country, and paid dedicated attention to matters of strategy, organization, policies, programs that must be improved and implemented to advance the fundamental transformation of South Africa. As delegates to this conference, we now declare, 1, on our journey to this conference, we are veterans who are ANC members, 60 years of age or older, who have served the ANC and the movement over an unbroken period of 40 years and are members of the ANC in good standing. Comrade President, all delegates who are here are delegates from branches. 90% of delegates of the conference itself is made up of branches, delegates from branches, all of them. They were properly elected in properly constituted branch meetings. And so as they are here, they're representing branches, they're not representing their jackets. And so that's who they are here. Accordingly, we belong to a core members who have given the better part of their lives to the work of the ANC as a servant of the people. We want our ministers, our public representatives, they must know that they are servants of the people. Not that when they are driving blue cars, they think they're above the people. They are servants of the people. Comrade President, we have successfully laid the foundation of a credible, legitimate, and reconstituted the Veterans League across the country. That we have done. The spirit of the conference has been one of principled unity, discipline, openness, humility, and humbleness. We stand on the shoulders of the giants of our liberation movement and the entire generation who activated and overcame the apartheid state and swelled the ranks of the democratic movement. The ANC and the Umkhonto weSizwe. And amongst us are those who were young lions in the 1970s and 1980s who contributed to a resounding ANC elections victory in 1994. However, Comrade President, we recognize that the journey towards the full emancipation of our people is not done yet, and thus we recommit ourselves to continue to serve the people and actively participate in the work of the African National Congress to ensure that our beloved organization is able to renew itself to deliver on our historic mission. On the National Democratic Revolution and South African Constitution, the ANC is a national liberation movement formed to unite the people and spearhead the struggle for fundamental political, social, and economic transformation. We believe that the ANC was the principal architect of our transformative constitution and democracy, constitutional democracy. South Africa achieved a decisive democratic breakthrough in 1994 elections, which gave us a firm mandate to the Constitutional Assembly, made up of representatives elected based on one person, one vote, to draft a new democratic constitution in 1996. The democratic constitution provides a basis for the democratization and transformation of our country. However, the challenge to transform and grow the economy so that it creates jobs and empowers our people, particularly the youth, women, and people who live in informal settlements, townships, and rural areas, remains. Further, there is today rampant crime and corruption, which is a threat to our democracy. Therefore, we as veterans, we commit to the following: to developing and deepening this democracy into a truly people-orientated, people-centered participatory democracy able to deliver a better life for all. Institutionalize integrity and ethical leadership across the state and pursuing in its society. Acting in a decisive, empathetic, and principled manner to generate hope for more inclusive, just, equitable, and sustainable future for our country and the people. Continuing the efforts to heal the divisions of the past and establish a society based on democratic values, social justice, and fundamental human rights, and unleashing the potential of each person. On the economy, It is tragic that almost 30 years after our democracy, we are faced with such high levels of poverty, inequality, unemployment, especially among young people. We have yet to achieve the transformation and the social-economic system, which is bedeviled by the legacy of the past and the reality that we function in a global economy where the economic burden falls on the shoulders of the poor and marginalized. We recognize the role that the load shedding is holding back our economic growth. We said here, comrades, because, Comrade President, majority of comrades who are here, they are senior people, and within their families, some of them are responsible for looking after their children, their grandchildren, and also they're looking after the whole household. And so we're saying that it's important that the economy must grow. We have direct experience of the effects of unemployment, hunger, and crime, which is visited upon our children, grandchildren, the infant and the aged. We recognize that it is women, especially young women, who bear the brunt of inequality, poverty, and unemployment. If we do not solve these challenges, our economy will continue to limp. Therefore, we as veterans, we commit to the following. One, to assist the ANC to tackle chronic poor economic performance and the resultant of high rate of unemployment, poverty, and inequality, rising lawlessness, criminality, and violence. Engaged on the economic policies and the role of the developmental state. Work practically for economic development at a local level and ensure a better life for all becomes a reality in our lifetime. Comrade President, in our declaration, we said we unreservedly support the call at the 54th National Conference to embark on a process of renewal. The Veterans League is fully committed to supporting the path of renewal of the ANC and building and supporting organization so that it can deliver to the people. We believe that a strong ANC, a strong organization is an asset to the government, that a strong organization rooted in our communities can complement the work of government, such as organization, and once rooted amongst the people, will be the first to see the problems that affect the people. As veterans, we want to see the following. We want to see a disciplined and a coherent organization of members that respect themselves and respect the ethos of the organization and its tradition. And an organization that is free from corruption, factionalism, and political violence. We therefore commit to do the following as well. Offer our timeless wisdom and counsel to play vital roles on various platforms, including the structures of the ANC. We are saying that we will be a resource for the organization, especially in terms of catered development and political education. We have discussed, we said since 1994 we came to power, there was no political education in the African National Congress. That is why, according to the Secretary General, saying that when you open the windows, all the mosquitoes came in. And so we are saying that we'll participate actively in our political education school, which is led by Comrade Makora, the Oliver Tambo School of Leadership. We want to share advice and guidance, as well as policy interventions that can strengthen the work of the ANC when necessary. We want to build dynamic ANC branches that engage with communities and become active in ward committees. Assist in refocusing branches towards the people we serve and the problems and challenges they face in their daily lives. With the role that we'll play, Comrade President, is to monitor provisions of local services to prevent corruption and poor service delivery, and strengthen advice offices and contact centers for residents to access government services. We'll act decisively against corruption wherever it appears, and will engage in dialogue with broader structures of the movement and civil society. Our clarion call, Comrade President, to fellow veterans is as follows. We have met here today with a sense of purpose and agency. We are well on our way to fulfilling our historical mission and what our Constitution requires of us that we embody the organizational experience and memory of the movement and the people's struggle for freedom and democracy, reinforcing the traditions, history, values, and unity of the movement. In light of the challenges faced by the ANC, which threatens its very existence and its soul, the conference has issued a call-up to all veterans to report at the nearest office of the ANC or online to come and make a full and rich contribution to the work of the ANC, the movement, and the life of the nation. I thank you. Amandla, Mata, Pambili nge Veterans League, Pambili. Pambili Cyril Ramaphosa, Pambili.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Comrade President Snooki, for delivering the declaration that was arrived at and approved unanimously, definitely by acclamation by everybody assembled here. It is really now my privilege and honor to invite the President, properly this time, to come and address us. Congratulations. Is this the right level?
Yes, it is. I'll adjust it. Amandla! Amandla! Viva ANC, viva! Forward with the Veterans League, forward! Amandla! Comrade Snooki Zikalala, the newly elected president of the ANC Veterans League, Comrade Mavuso Msimang, equally newly elected Deputy President of the ANC Veterans League, Comrade Ilva Makelanga, the Secretary General of the ANC Veterans League, Comrade Connie September, the DSG, and Comrade Faisal Randera, the Treasurer General. The leadership of the ANC Veterans League, as in the National Executive Committee that is assembled here on the stage, the leadership of the Alliance, members of the National Executive Committee of the ANC, comrades and friends. Comrade President Zikalala, I've been sitting there and looking around at the delegates here. And I've been looking and looking, and I've been seeing faces that look much younger than 60 years old. And I'm asking myself, where am I? Am I in the Veterans League conference? Now, I say that as a compliment to all of you. I really am complimenting you, because you are all over 60 and you don't look over 60. The women are really, really looking beautiful and outstanding. I've often said to Masofi, the brain is Tolandwe, and I greet you as well, and thank you for your wonderful remarks. And I often say, hey, I'm sure you were dazzling many, many men during your days, even today. Comrades, it's a real great honor to be amongst you here and to address this closing session of the third National Conference of the ANC Veterans League. In line with the mandate that was set forth by the ANC 55th National Conference last year to unite and to renew our movement, the National Executive Committee of the ANC was directed to ensure that the ANC Veterans League holds its conference, and Comrade Mavuso Msimang was saying here in a very confident way that you were given the mandate 9 months ago and you have delivered. And thank you for delivering. The instruction was ensure that the ANC Veterans League sets up functioning structures as part of the renewal process of our glorious movement. And I'm really pleased, as Comrade Snooki Zikalala was saying, that has been delivered right across the length and the breadth of the country. Thank you very much for making sure that that happens. With the conclusion of this conference of the ANC Veterans League and the elections of its national leadership, we have concluded an important part of that task we were given and have made a very significant advance on the unity and the renewal of the African National Congress. We did say then, the January 8th statement when we delivered it on behalf of the NEC, that the renewal and the unity process of the ANC is irreversible, irrevocable. And your presence here at this conference confirms that. Thank you very much for living up to that statement that it is irreversible. As a Veterans League, you have shown that indeed you are the embodiment of the values, the mission, the traditions and the culture, as well as the ethos of the ANC. Just for starters, the manner in which this conference has been held, and Comrade Ilva, the SG, was saying to me, we held this conference in the most outstanding way, and we have surpassed all ANC standards. And I agree with that. And you have set the bar very high. And we will confess that our national conference, there were many hiccups, as many of you know. A lot of hiccups. And we followed up with the Youth League conference. There were hiccups, but a little better. The Women's League conference got a bit better, but we thought you would just be average, but you have exceeded even that. So thank you very much. So, Inform, the Veterans League conference was conducted with extreme precision and discipline. You completed your entire agenda of the conference in the allotted time, from the constitutional amendments to commissions to the elections of the leadership, and also to a most wonderful declaration that has just been read by your president. And the NEC, one would say, was elected in the true spirit through the eye of the needle, ensuring that the NEC reflects gender, capacity, geographic spread, as well as experience and a really good articulation of the national question. We thank you for that. Now, the consensus manner in which you agreed to this NEC was truly exemplary. In fact, this is what we expect from true veterans of our movement, to place the unity of the ANC and the character of the ANC above individual positions. You were able to live up to that. And I'd like to thank you. You are really a trailblazer for the ANC, and you are giving us really wonderful lessons. Through the deliberations and the decisions of this conference, you, the veterans of our movement, have made a clear, definitive statement of your determination to rebuild, to unite, and to strengthen the African National Congress. Now, the successful holding of this conference and the manner your league deports itself, the manner in which you are disciplined, the manner in which you adhere to the traditions and the culture of the ANC, positions you all and positions the League in a way that has earned you, as the ANC Veterans League, a particular position and right in the life of the ANC. And I want to elaborate on that in a little while. You have a right to do a number of things. And all of you are not Mafigi Zolos, by the way. No, you are not. You must make sure that we acknowledge that and remind us. You have expressed a deep concern that the resolutions of successive ANC conferences on the issue of renewal have not always received serious and urgent attention from the leadership of the movement. That has been your reflection. This is a concern that we as the ANC NEC, we recognize that and we acknowledge it, and that we are working through our own program of action to address. In many, many ways, the issue of the renewal and the unity and the rebuilding of the ANC was brought more to the fore by you as members of the ANC Veterans League, even before this conference. Ahead of this conference and ahead of the 55th conference, you took it upon yourselves to own the whole process of renewal of your movement. The veterans that are represented here have reaffirmed their commitment to the advancement of the NDR and the realization of a free, democratic, and equal South Africa. And this is clearly articulated in the declaration that you have just adopted. This conference, therefore, confirms the role that veterans and stalwarts of our movement continue to play within our movement. Yes, we do look to you as veterans as a vital link to our proud and distinguished history, a history of struggle. In our veterans, which is all of you here, we see embodied the values and the principles that have, since the formation of our movement, defined our movement over many decades. And yet, while our veterans provide what I would call an essential link with our past, you are also rooted in the present moment, and your efforts are also focused on the future. The ANC Veterans League is at its very core concerned with the future of the ANC. Wherever I've been throughout the country, when I meet ANC veterans, they are always concerned more and solely about the future of the African National Congress, the future of our country, and the direction of the National Democratic Revolution. This, I can say without any equivocation, is articulated time and time again whenever I have occasion as we go through the length and the breadth of the country to meet our veterans. Now, this Veterans League is not given just to nostalgia. It does not, and you do not dwell just on the past and the great victories of the past. You are a Veterans League that is actively engaged with the challenges and the opportunities of the present. This is a league of activists who are prepared to work and who are ready to engage. Yes, you do attend the meetings of the African National Congress, even if some of you are affected by either ill health or age. I still am amazed at how you spend time and effort going to ANC meetings and participating and making your voice heard. And I do want to thank you for that, because I want to continue seeing you as I go around the country. Thank you so much for that. Now, central to the purpose and the program of the Veterans League is the renewal and the revitalization of the ANC. But it should also be the revitalization of the alliance and the broader democratic movement. As we prepared for the ANC 55th National Conference in December last year, the Veterans League came forward with important proposals on how we can foster renewal in the ANC and how we can improve the reorganization of the ANC so that it should reconnect with our people. Many of these proposals find expression in the resolutions of the 55th National Conference. They also find expression in the Program of Action and in the ANC Roadmap 2023. In describing the actions that we need to take to renew the ANC Veterans League has consistently and correctly so placed the interests of the people of South Africa at the center. You have made the fundamental point that the ANC does not exist for its own sake, and you have said that it exists to serve and to unite the people of South Africa, so that the people of South Africa can achieve a united, non-racial, non-sexist and democratic, as well as a country that can improve their lives. I want to emphatically endorse the overall tasks the Veterans League has set out for itself towards and beyond this conference. You, as the Veterans League, you are correct when you say that you need to be at the forefront of the ANC renewal process. And I do see as your key role. But more than that, I see that as your right. I've just come back from Russia, where we were having the Russia-Africa Summit. And on the sidelines of that summit, we also held a meeting with President Vladimir Putin on the Africa Peace Initiative, where the 7 nations on our continent have been suing for peace, having gone to Ukraine and having gone to Russia, and this time round we were meeting President Putin for the second time, and this time our delegation was enormously enhanced, because the first time we didn't have President Museveni, who sent a representative. We didn't have President Sisi of Egypt, who had sent a representative, and we didn't at the time also have President Sassou Nguesso of the Republic of Congo. This time round, they were there. So 6 heads of state, except for President Hichilema, who could not come, of Zambia. But President Museveni, in articulating our views and our proposals, said that we are here because we have a right. We have a right as African countries to come and call for peace. We're not doing this out of any other reason. It is because we have a right. We have an inherent right as countries of Africa to call for peace and to the end of this war. And in thinking about just that, we all articulated what that right was based on. And some of the things we said was because as African countries we are also affected, and the whole world is affected by this war. And the geopolitical situation has also been changed, and it is changing. So he articulated the concept of the right that we as African countries have. Some people have been dismissive of this initiative, but President Putin said, I truly appreciate your initiative as African countries. And we also said we have a right because we are the only group that can talk to both parties. Many other groups talk to the one or the other. We are the only group in the whole world that has taken on the responsibility to sue for peace and to talk to both. Now, I'm drawing a lesson out of this leaf of having a right by saying, you as the African National Congress Veterans League, you have a right. Do not ever think that by executing your role in the process of the renewal of the ANC and calling for unity, you are doing it from a weak position. You have a right. Ninelungelo. You have the right to talk about renewal. So don't ever think that you are just, sitting on the end of the table. You are right at the center of the table because you are the African National Congress Veterans League. Now, you have a right to call upon our structures to unite, to get rid of factionalism. You have a right to say that there should be discipline in the organization. You have a right to say that we must be well behaved in meetings of the ANC. You have the right because it is born out of your experience, it is born out of your consciousness, it is born out of who you are. So as you sit here, just know that you are not visitors in the ANC. You have a right and you have a voice. So you have a voice. And if you never thought you had a voice, as president of the ANC, I'm saying you have a voice and you must talk. Now, in the end, you also have the right to speak out about what this renewal process should be. At the core of the renewal process should be the improvement of the material conditions of the people of South Africa. And the work that we must do as the ANC to improve the lives of our people must be articulated by yourselves. You are the ones who must say ANC, this is what needs to be done to improve the lives of our people. It is by renewing the ANC that we will be able to better drive things such as service delivery, building infrastructure, alleviating the poverty under which our people are living, to create jobs and to ensure that there are economic opportunities for all, and yes, to ensure that there is also improved safety and security for the people of South Africa. As we do this work of renewing our movement, led by yourselves, you having taken ownership of the renewal process, we must focus our attention on the needs of the people as we become more outward-looking in our program. The good thing about your involvement as well is that you are not looking for positions. You are not. You are not involved in a struggle for positions, to be either President of the Republic or Premier or whatever. You are doing it because of your commitment. And that is what you need to remind us about, that you do not have any conflict of interest. Because in our movement these days, it is a fight to the end for positions. Because by getting into those positions, we advance our own, either financial or, standing in society and so forth. You are different. And that is why you have this right. The right to intervene, the right to speak out, and the right to lead the renewal process. Now, we adopted a program of action, and the ANC, as a campaigning organization, must ensure that this program of action is rooted amongst the masses of our country, and it must ensure that, yes, it ensures and leads and directs government to improve the lives of our people. The program of action gives effect to the 55th National Conference resolutions and the tasks that were laid out for all of us in the January 8th statement. Now, this program focuses on building the organization, driving its renewal process through our branches and also our members. It is only through political work in communities that we will be able to build a strong organization. It is only through that political work that we'll be able to develop cadres and to restore our own standing in society. And having seen many of you at work in the various branches and areas in our country, I am sure that this conference will only embolden you and give you more strength to do the work that you've been doing. As we have done in the past, we need to use the 2024 election campaign to build our structures, to engage our members in campaign work, and to be in constant contact with our people. I agree with you that the ANC should be working for an outright victory for the 2024 elections. This notion that is going around that, yes, we should consider coalitions and all that, as far as I'm concerned, it is not even on the agenda. We are going for an outright victory. And our program of action should also include engagements with organizations, with groupings and stakeholders across society. As the ANC Veterans League, as you have said, the ANC should take the initiative of learning from our past mistakes and affirm that we should recognize and respect, yes, the independence of civil society organizations. Proceeding from this understanding, we should work to ensure that these engagements that we should have with various mass democratic movement structures lead to cooperation on practical issues of social transformation. As the ANC and as the Alliance, we need to work closely with other formations to share the goal of social economic change, that we seek to improve the lives of our people, and that we also want to strengthen our democracy. Of course, we will not agree on all matters, nor will we necessarily share the same ideological orientation with many of these structures, but we are united on a common desire to transform our society and to improve the material conditions of our people. And in just a few weeks' time from now, we will celebrate the 40th anniversary of the United Democratic Front. Now, in recalling the seminal moment in our struggle for democracy, we should draw lessons, all of us, from the experience of the UDF as a broad front for liberation. The UDF was able to mobilize a remarkable range of formations from across society to confront the might of the apartheid state and to forge a path towards a united and democratic society. As we reflect on that history, we should avoid the temptation to bemoan by comparison our current organizational state. Instead, what we should do is to use the lessons of the UDF era to revive the activism and the vibrancy of our structures. That's what we should do. Rather than sit back and navel gaze and say, oh, during the UDF, this is what we did, and languish in history. What we should do is to say, what are the lessons we can draw from how we mobilized our people under the banner of the United Democratic Front, and then do it again now. And we should be inspired by the UDF example to empower and enable our cadres and to forge a broad front to drive social and economic transformation. To undertake this work, comrades, we need to fix, yes, the problems in the ANC. Mam Sophie de Bruyn spoke about that. We need to correct our mistakes and address our weaknesses. And weaknesses we have in galore, but we also have solutions in galore that we need to embark upon. We have diagnosed our problems and we know what our ailments are, and we now need to have the courage and the strength to embark on what needs to be done. Over the course of several years, the veterans and stalwarts of our movement have led the call to confront and defeat corruption, to defeat patronage and other tendencies within the ANC. This was also articulated very clearly in your declaration. Yes, our veterans and stalwarts have said that unless we do so, the very survival of our movement is at stake and the progress of the National Democratic Revolution will be under threat. This concern is echoed in a resolution on strategy and tactics that we adopted at the 54th National Conference, where we said, open quotes, it cannot altogether be ruled out that the liberation movement itself can be so corrupted in terms of its objectives, policies, value systems, as well as composition and conduct of leadership, that it becomes a bed of counter-revolution infestation, close quotes. That is why our 55th National Conference strongly reaffirmed our positions on the sustained renewal of the ANC to regain the moral, intellectual, and political high ground as the leader of society. The conference in December last year said, there is no turning back on the fundamental renewal of the ANC, as well as on radical economic transformation of South Africa. Conference delegates share a common commitment to arrest any negative tendencies and decisively correct errors that threaten to overshadow and reverse the gains of our democracy, close quotes. In the end, we will not stop corruption within our ranks unless we deepen the ethical consciousness of our members and leaders. When we joined the ANC, we each of us made a solemn declaration or oath that we were joining the organization without motives of material advantage or personal gain. As veterans, you remember this very, very acutely. Yet there are some amongst us who have clearly forgotten their oath. Those who see the ANC as a path to wealth, to power, to influence or status must know that this is diametrically opposed to the value system of the African National Congress. And we call upon them to change their ways so that the ANC can return, as we are working to return it to its days of glory. If we are to rebuild the ANC as an ethical movement that enjoys the confidence of the people of our country, then we need cadres of integrity, cadres who are totally committed to be servants of our people, as your declaration says. Part of renewing our movement is revitalizing and energizing and establishing credible and legitimate branch structures of the ANC. There has been a tendency in our movement for our structures only to become activized, to be very active during conferences or elections. As we go towards conferences, that's when our branches meet and they become active because there is a chance that they may be elected. And there is a chance they may also become public representatives. Now, comrades, this must come to an end. We must make sure that, yes, indeed, our branches are branches that are alive. They are branches that are well connected and grounded on all facets of life that affect our people. And the branches must really become the touchstones of our organization. We therefore welcome the resolve of all our leagues to also rebuild their structures as part of our drive to renew and to unite our movement. Now, the Veterans League has also set a target for itself to participate actively in local issues, including through participation in ANC branches, community structures, and forms of active citizenry. We encourage the League to sustain this campaign and link it more closely to the ANC revived Letsema campaign and seek partnerships with Alliance, MDM structures, and other progressive community-based organizations. Making local government function more effectively and serving communities is better in ensuring that we do become all involved in ensuring that government does meet its obligations. ANC structures must work to make local government effective and efficient. Our conference in December was clear that our members and leaders should undergo political, ideological, and theoretical training. Now, Comrade President Snuki Zikalala was talking about this, that we actually ignored political education in our movement since 1994. This is really a terrible indictment on us as the African National Congress, particularly so because we've got veterans of our movement who could have led and participated in political education. All of you would become really outstanding, and as I call upon you to do so, educators, and making sure that the political, ideological training in our movement is enhanced. Now, the OR Tambo School of Leadership has demonstrated that our members have a great appetite and hunger for training. The participation of young people in this training is clearly an indication of the great potential that there is to build a new cadre. We've been talking for years about building a new cadre, and our statements have really not been supported by what we need to do to build this new cadre, because the political education process has really been absent and weakened over all these years. Comrade David Makura has really started to reinvigorate political education in our movement, and we must wish him well and strength and cooperate with him, particularly yourselves as the veterans of our movement. As he goes throughout the country to our branches, let's give Comrade David Makura maximum support in ensuring that this happens. Because political education, comrades, is the pillar of our organizational renewal, in which the veterans have an important role to play. So, Comrade Snuki, if I ever were to set up what your tasks are, it's renewal. But one of the key ones is on political education. And it needs to be structured so well that it is spread throughout the country. Because you have the experience, you have the knowledge, you've got the political consciousness, as well as the ideological clarity that is needed to train and to mentor new generations of activists. And you must infuse in your own thinking that you must bequeath this organization to the next generation. The next generation must be well armed and equipped with the knowledge base, the political consciousness, and the ideological clarity that you have to pass on to the next generation. That is your principal task. Alongside the work we must undertake to renew and rebuild the ANC, we must decisively also address what are perhaps the most challenging social and economic circumstances since the advent of our democracy. We are still grappling with the effects of COVID-19, which caused the loss of more than 6 million lives globally and 100,000 in our own country. The pandemic triggered one of the worst job crises since the Great Depression. And here in our own country, as you well know, we lost 2 million jobs. And we lost those 2 million jobs within a period of just a year. The 2 million jobs that we had been building up for years and years were wiped out just within a few months. International instability, the turmoil in the global economy, and the effects of the Russia-Ukraine conflict is also fueling a number of other challenges that have to do with food prices, increasing in the cost of living. And when it comes to food prices, one of the issues we were talking, to President Putin about is the issue of fertilizers. And we were saying, we have a right to come and talk to you about peace because we've seen our fertilizer prices going up 70%. And that is why the price of food has also shot up. And we articulated to him that that gives us the right, therefore, to come and sue for peace. And we did exactly the same thing with President Zelensky. Now, on top of this, we here in our own country, we are also in the grip of an energy crisis that has been many years in the making. In responding to this grave challenge, our most pressing priority must be the creation of employment, especially for young people, as Comrade Snooky Zikalala so articulately said. This means the economy of our country needs to grow much faster, and it needs to be an economy that is more inclusive, and it needs to be an economy that attracts far greater levels of investment. In line with the resolutions of our conference in December, we are intensifying our focus on the energy crisis. We are also intensifying our focus on an investment drive and taking steps to improve the investment climate also in our country. One of the things that has been holding investments back is that what we need to do in terms of reforms has not kept up with the needs of the economy as it has been growing. When you look at Transnet, which is really the main artery of logistics in our country, during state capture, was really reduced to what it is today. Our railways have really been negatively affected, and this has had an impact on the attractiveness of our country when it comes to investment. Yes, we have even lagged behind on things such as infrastructure and the whole process of growing as well as the economy and making sure that we have more and more small businesses and cooperatives that are going to be given the support that they need. And all of the work that we are doing is aimed at stimulating investment and creating jobs and making sure that we reposition our economy as we grapple with all these problems. Over the next few days, government will be releasing a one-year review of the implementation of the Energy Action Plan that we put in place. It will show the work that has been done to restore and to rebuild Eskom, to improve the performance of its power plants, to unlock massive investment in new generation. Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa will give an update on how far we have gone in implementing our action plan, which I announced the other year. As we have said before, we will not end load shedding overnight, but we have a clear path out of the electricity crisis that will create the conditions for energy security for all South Africans into the future. The well-being of our people and the progress of our society and the development of our economy requires that we should overcome crime and violence. Comrade Snooky spoke about that. The violence and the crime that continues to dog our people's lives is clearly not acceptable, and we need to take much more decisive action We are strengthening the police to prevent crime and to improve our security agencies. Government has been working closely with civil society to intensify the fight against gender-based violence and femicide. This is one other area that we would like the ANC Veterans League to really get involved in, because we've often said that it is when we work together as various formations that we will be able, yes, to rid our country of this scourge. The ANC Women's League has been very active over a number of years on the issue of gender-based violence. And to a large extent, what we are doing even at government level, on the various initiatives that we have taken to improve, for instance, lab processes, to actually have more Tutuzela centers around the country as havens and refuge for women who are abused, has been at the instance of the ANC Women's League, and we thank them for having taken this as a big task. The ANC Veterans League can play a supportive role, because ultimately we will only end gender-based violence if all of society is mobilized in a concerted and consistent campaign to change behavior, particularly the behavior of men, and transform gender relations. If any amongst us understands this task better, I would hasten to say it is the ANC Veterans League, and we want you to play a key role in that. And as directed by the 55th conference, we are also addressing this other scourge, the fight against corruption in our country, with a view of dismantling and getting rid of corrupt state capture networks, particularly in state-owned enterprises and law enforcement agencies and other entities. That work is ongoing because there is almost no part in our society that is not affected by corruption. And this is the work that we must do, and progress is being made because people are being prosecuted, people are being arrested, and funds are being recovered. We have often said that our progress as a nation cannot be separated from the progress that we have to make on the African continent as a whole, and fostering peace in the world as well. To drive the growth and diversification and development of African economies, the ANC is working with our counterparts elsewhere to strengthen the African Union and ensure that the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is effectively implemented. And this has been one of the fundamental changes that the continent of Africa can look forward to. And we've now started to implement it so that the continent trades with itself, so that the continent makes its own products. And when we were at the Russia-Africa Summit in St. Petersburg just now, all of us collectively said that we now must decisively say that we are no longer going to be willing to export ore, rocks, sand, and dust. We want to export finished products from our continent. Now, when we initially said we want beneficiation of our minerals, many people thought we were mad or crazy. Now, we want to ensure that this becomes a reality, because when you export raw materials, the value that you get is a fraction of what you get when you export real finished products. When you export iron ore, all you are really doing is to export rock and dust and soil. But what we want to do, we want to export stainless steel products made out of our iron ore. That is what we want to be focusing our attention on. Now, this is becoming a new slogan on our continent, and we want to drive it and drive it. And we also want to be able to say we should set up a minerals commission on the African continent. The AU has already taken a decision that there should be a structure that looks at our minerals endowment, and we should be able to come up with clear policies on how, as the African continent, we are going to deal with this wealth that we've been given as an endowment as the continent. One of the things that's happening now is that many countries outside of our continent are counting their wealth. They count their assets based on the mineral wealth that they have captured on our continent, as they used to do in the past. And I've been reading a wonderful history book. In the past, you know, the slave trading and owning countries used to count their own assets as the slaves from our continent. They used to say, I have so many slaves and these are my assets. Now, we want to be rid of that. We don't want others to count as their assets the mineral wealth in our countries on the African continent. That mineral wealth belongs to Africans. It belongs to the people of this continent, and we must be the ones who exploit it and finish it off and then export the best products that are made of our mineral products. This is the new wave on our continent now. Now, when it comes to our continent, our objective has always been to ensure that there's a better Africa, there's a peaceful Africa, and that we silence the guns that are raging on our continent. Now, we are often encountered by challenges and difficulties, like right now. There's a coup in Niger, which we have clearly said we are opposed to, and we have called on those soldiers who have appropriated power in Niger to return to barracks and hand over power to the duly elected leaders of that country, because coups should never be acceptable on our continent. They take us back. They make us to go back many, many years, and yet what we should be doing is to moving forward into modernity, into good governance, and into ensuring that we serve the people of our continent. Our foreign policy stance has also been informed by the understanding that multilateralism and respect for international law are key to global and economic stability. We continue to work for the fundamental reform of the various multinational institutions to more effectively respond to the needs of the global South. There have been concerted efforts, as you well know, to draw South Africa into broader geopolitical contests. Yet we have consistently maintained our non-aligned stance, our respect for UN Charter, as well as our respect and support for the peaceful resolution of conflicts through dialogue. And that is the message that we have also carried to almost 3,400 kilometers away from our continent as the 7 nations who have been involved in the peace process. Now, our non-aligned position exists along our active support for the struggles of the oppressed and the marginalized in different parts of the world, Just as we benefited from international solidarity, the ANC continues to pledge solidarity with the oppressed people of Palestine, Western Sahara, in their respective struggles for freedom, for justice, and democracy. And we will never stop. These are among the priorities and tasks that were also identified in our January 8th statement. They have also been the subject of deliberations and decisions at the conferences of the ANC Veterans League. This conference has done much, truth be told, to enrich our approach to renewal, to sharpen our analysis of the key challenges of the moment that confront and face the ANC, and you've also done much to provide further momentum to the rebuilding of our movement. So we are grateful that you have held this wonderfully successful conference. Now, I want to congratulate the SGO of the ANC and members of the National Executive Committee of the ANC who've worked with your task team to make sure that this conference does become the success that it has been. I also want to commend all of you as members of the ANC Veterans League on being here at this conference. And I know many of you have traveled far and afield, those from our coastal regions and those from the northern part of the country, the east and the west. We thank you for traveling so far to come to Gauteng for this conference. You have really emboldened the African National Congress immensely. You may not imagine what your conference means to the ANC. You've given us a good shot in the arm, a really good injection, maybe in the bum even, as the ANC. Now, as the ANC National Executive Committee, we look forward to working with the Veterans League. We've always had Comrade Snooki representing the ANC Veterans League on the NWC and the NEC. Now he will be walking into that structure together with Comrade Ilva with much greater confidence, knowing that he's got the full support of this conference. So we look forward to working with all of you throughout the length and the breadth of the country. And comrades, we wish you well. Having an ANC Veterans League in our ranks is what many organizations don't have. You tell me of any organization in South Africa that has a reservoir, a repository of great wisdom, of knowledge, of political consciousness, of ideological clarity like you. Aiko, you are the only ones, and I thank you.
President Cyril Ramaphosa closing off the Veterans League conference there in Boksburg this weekend, speaking on a number of issues after the leadership was elected, with the president being Snooki Zikalala. And he touched on a number of issues. One of the big ones that a lot of people have been asking the ruling party about is the coalitions and what happens after the elections next year. The president just lamenting on the point that's been made by various leaders within the organizations that there will be no coalitions and that the ANC is going for an outright win after the 2024 election. Obviously a very difficult task for an ANC that has disappointed citizens on so many occasions, and the frustration now leaving people looking at alternative parties. And then, of course, you'll see the moon pacts that were initiated by the DA and other smaller parties calling for a unity amongst them so that the ANC can be taken out of power. So there's that. He also spoke about getting the ANC, with the help of the Veterans League, back to the days of glory, back to the days when the ANC actually fulfilled the promises that it made with the people, the ethical movement that it was, but also a movement that was filled in its ranks with leaders of integrity. He also spoke about the future of the ANC, saying that the OR Tambo Leadership School, encouraging developments there, that there's a lot of young leaders or members of the ANC that are keen to learn about leadership within the movement and are participating in the leadership school, fulfilling various courses that are needed there to advance within the mother body of the African National Congress. And then, of course, he spoke about the socioeconomic issues that the ANC needs to address going forward. He spoke about COVID-19 and that 2 million jobs were wiped out in a matter of months because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And he said that the ANC should focus, as long as it is in government, in restoring those jobs that he says were created over a number of years. Now, many would argue that it should have been more than 2 million jobs that are created during the ruling days of the ANC, and I mean here during the advent of democracy. But that is what the ANC was able to do, and that was all wiped out by the pandemic. He spoke about relations with Russia. He spoke about strengthening ties between Africa and Russia and exploring the opportunities that the African continent could gain from relationships with the likes of Russia, China, the BRICS movement as a whole, and getting other African countries part of that. He also gave us a bit of a history lesson in slavery and, of course, the implications thereof. A number of important issues that the president touched on at the closing of that particular event this weekend. We do have senior reporter Siphamandla Goge, who's been covering the event throughout the weekend, and hopefully we get to catch up with him a little later on to give us a wrap of the weekend that was at the Veterans League. Certainly nothing like the Women's League conference that was covered by Moloko Moloto, where there was a physical altercation, Moloko Moloto and Aviwe Mtila actually, physical altercations before a finalization of the leadership votes in that particular conference. So we'll have him hopefully to give us an update. Let's head over to a short break for now, and we'll bring you some